Welcome to the Kbbreview Podcast. I'm Matt Baker, and this is another special episode all about the Kbbreview Retail and Design Awards, which, by the way, I can now say is sold out. Yes, I have been warning you, so if you still want to come, you'll have to join our waiting list. So go to kbbreview.com/awards for full details. So we're 2 months away from the awards and things are really starting to hot up. Before Christmas, we announced our finalists in each category, and since then, the second stage of the judging has taken place. So all of the businesses in the retail categories have been visited and interviewed, and the designers have presented to our panel of expert judges. And that's it. We have our winners locked in now. But today, we're going to shine the spotlight on the design categories and take another look into the minds of our design judges just to see what they thought about this year's entries, what themes they spotted, and just how much they get out of the process themselves. Before that, a huge thank you needs to go out to our awards podcast sponsor, Sonas Bathrooms. It's great to have their continued support, as between now and the event on Thursday, 24th of April, at the Blackpool Tower Ballroom, we'll be bringing you more special bonus episodes all around the awards that celebrate the very best talent our industry has to offer. You can find out everything you need to know about our awards podcast sponsor at sonasbathrooms.com, and I'll make sure that link is in the episode description. Before we talk to the judges, a little bit on the process itself. It's so important to understand, and it works a bit like this. Designers submit their written entries, and the judges go through every single one and score them independently against a set list of criteria. We add up all the scores, and the top 4 in each category become the shortlist. Now, it doesn't stop there. There's a big difference with our awards. You have 2 further judging sessions. We have 2 panels, one for kitchen and one for bathroom, and we put them in a room, and all the shortlisted finalists then present their projects to them in person via Zoom. And this is where the judges get to quiz, question, and query the designers all on the details. So Kbbreview Managing Editor Andy Davis and myself ran the bathroom panel at the Rocker Gallery in Chelsea Harbour, and our colleagues Editor-at-Large Rebecca Nottingham and News and Features writer George Dean ran the kitchen panel at Halcyon Interiors in Wigmore Street. I can certainly say that from my point of view at the bathroom judging day, the breadth of experience, designs, clientele, and just the sheer imagination really highlighted why we do these awards. Hearing designers talk about the finer details and decision making that went into each project, and then listening to the judges deliberate, was just fascinating. So naturally, once all the presentations were over, we grabbed some of the judges for a post-match chat. So first up, let's hear from some of our bathroom judges, Stephen Dick and Elspeth Bridham. Elspeth, judging finished. It was a long day, but what kind of trends did you come out of today, of the judging day?
Oh, first of all, it's just been an amazing day. It is a long day, but I think we all enjoy it so much, and there's so many discussions around it. One of the things I noticed today, which I was really impressed by, was the attention to lighting. And I think within each of the 3 price groups, there was 2, at least 3 different lighting zones in a bathroom, and I think that's a lovely step forward. And the other thing was the use of bespoke furniture and people looking for things, or even bringing antiques into a room, and really not, if you can't find what you want in the catalogues, actually going out and getting it made specifically.
And Stephen, what was trending or cropped up a number of times?
Well, I mean, I think all of the designs that we looked at as finalists were absolutely kind So in a way, it's kind of saying that good design was trending in a way. And I think designers are going beyond just dropping products into the bathrooms. And it feels like the thinking around the designs is they're being more integrated into the homes as living spaces. And we're kind of seeing that with partly colour palettes being a little bit more adventurous than before, also with different types of materials as well. And we're seeing things that maybe we wouldn't have seen so much a few years ago, but what they're really changing is the feel of these rooms, and they look like really beautiful places to to spend some time in. That sounds slightly strange, but you know what I mean.
Well, that is what bathrooms are for.
Let's not deny that. Yeah.
I guess the question is, are you encouraged by what you saw today?
Yeah, absolutely, because I think what we're also seeing is the role of a designer and the value that a designer can add to a project beyond just choosing a sink and choosing some tiles and choosing a colour. It's actually how that's pulled together, how it's executed, and the rigour which the designers are applying to that, which result in these, I think, beautiful functional spaces, which are also going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, and Elspeth, we had sort of real level of detail conversations with the designers. So, is that encouraging for you in the future of design?
Oh, 100%. I think Stephen said it so well anyway, but one of the brilliant things about today is talking to the designers and having them really explain the problems they've faced and the way they've got over them, and how so many of them go absolutely above and beyond to really make this dream become a reality. I know that's a cliche, but it is true. People are spending a lot of money, and the detail that goes into it and the design, the level of design was quite extraordinary actually across the board. We've seen some very exciting things today.
And that's it now, isn't it? I think we're now on to Blackpool. So you've got plans to party?
I've got plans to wear something very sparkly, that's for sure.
Yes, sparkly attire all round for sure, as we will be in the Tower Ballroom. Interesting to hear about the level of detail designers go into to really fulfill the brief on behalf of their clients. And also the judges mentioned sort of real talent for spatial design this year that really came through in the designing. So with that said, meanwhile, over in Wigmore Street, George caught up with our kitchen judges.
So obviously I know who you guys are because we've spent hours locked in a room together deciding who's going to win this year. But could we just go round and introduce ourselves and where we're from?
Yeah, I'm Hayley Robson, the creative director at Day True in Wimbledon Village.
I'm Graham Robinson from Halcyon Interiors.
I'm Johnny Gray from Johnny Gray Studios.
Brilliant. Okay. So nice, easy one to start off with. How has it been this year being a judge for the awards? Because I know a lot of you, maybe all of you actually, this is not your first time judging.
Not our first rodeo.
Not your first rodeo. So how's this rodeo been?
I haven't judged the kitchens before, so for me it's been really, really interesting. The shortlisting process always seems quite overwhelming because there's so many good entries, but what's really fascinating is to see the 3 different categories of price groups and the amazing projects that are there in every category.
What do you think, Graham?
I've done it for a few years now, and I think this year has been probably one of the harder years because the calibre has been really high. But as always, I really like the actual getting to know the designer and understanding the decision making and the process behind that, the story behind the design.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched slightly there about the standard of entries this year, but would you say they're higher than in previous years, Johnny?
I'm not sure they're higher than previous years, but I think they've evolved and they're different. Like Graham was just saying, the story of the design is very interesting, but also in this case, we get a chance to actually meet the people who are doing the work, where they're coming from. And they are coming from slightly different backgrounds this year, I believe.
Okay, so would you say it's a bit more diverse this year than it has been in other years in terms of where people are coming from or what their backgrounds are?
Definitely, and people that we may not have seen before or may have entered a few years ago and then have come back and entered again. So it's just like quite fresh with the entries that we've had, which is interesting.
What's really nice is that they're not people who are focused on sales. Yes, they're interested in service and provide, but most of all, every single one of them show one thing in common, that they really enjoy working with clients and have developed a high degree of trust with them. And the higher the degree of trust, usually the more confident and the more original their work is.
What is definitely interesting, you're right, Johnny, is seeing people who have come from a cabinetry background or a workshop or inheriting a business and coming in that way rather than education, fitters, fine art background, so all of these different creatives. Yeah.
The advantage of meeting and talking to people is you see the real relationship. And sometimes it's over a number of years that designer's worked with that client. And sometimes it's not just that individual designer, it's the whole company that have worked with the end client. And some of those relationships go beyond supplying the kitchen. They sort of visiting them afterwards and going to the party afterwards. So it's the holistic journey that those designers have been on with that client.
And for me, you're right, that's something that I would say we've heard a lot today is collaboration. Actually is a really lovely part of the industry we work in. There's lots of people saying they worked on it as a team, or the client was very involved, the architect was very involved. And I think that's a real positive for our industry as a whole, is collaboration.
Definitely.
I think project management is underrated. One of the key parts of all of this is that when the client finally gets to turn on their induction arb, there has been a remarkable level of collaboration between many people to make that really work. And that means also people in the construction sector, not just ours, but also that it's not just purely, unfortunately, a creative process. It's a really hands-on process. And I really admire the people who actually do the real work. And the entrance we've seen today completely justify this idea that we must extend kitchen design to include really the making process.
Even projects that are done by just one person, it's not just who has the most visually stunning kitchen, is it? We've discussed a lot today about whose design solves a problem or who used products the best. So it really is sort of all-encompassing, isn't it?
That's what's really fascinating about being a judge, I think, personally, because, we sit here and we hear lots of examples and stories of different approaches, different collaborations, but different reasons why they've ended up with the kitchen they have. And that's what's really fascinating, I think, is the story and the reasoning and the process.
They all have different pathways or different journeys, and some of them are slightly surprising.
Yeah.
And the judges trying to make up their mind over a couple of quite difficult decisions, almost as a result of the fact those journeys are so different. You almost can't compare the designs, if you like, or the end result against the others. They are different.
And the journey is part of the success of the projects that we've seen today. It's not just a pretty picture. It's really understanding the decisions and the process and the client and why.
Absolutely. And would you say there's been a lot of deliberation today over the entries? Because I would say some of them seem like that they've been quite clear, and some of them you guys have mulled over for a really long time, I would say.
Definitely, there's been a lot of deliberation today, but even prior to today, there's quite a few days of deliberation, just shortlisting to get to the stage that they're with us today. So, overall, a lot of deliberation, yes.
And a lot of people do question the process of... Yes. So I think it's really important to talk about it, because you're right. There's one thing you're shortlisting, but actually there's lots of different people's opinion and backgrounds in the room coming to a conclusion. And I would say we were quite good at getting it narrowed down to perhaps 2, but then it was very difficult to make a decision between the final 2. And we had to refer back to the criteria of what we were actually judging, because... it had to come down to something difficult to pick the final one.
Brilliant. Okay, lovely way to end it there. Thank you all 3 of you for your time today and for staying with me afterwards to answer some questions as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Pleasure.
So there you have it. We have our winners locked in, and all that's left to do now is enjoy the show on the night. Once again, we are now sold out. So if you want to join our waiting list, go to kbbreview.com/awards to find out more. And a big thank you again to our awards podcast sponsor, Sonas Bathrooms. You make this podcast series possible, so thank you. Our next special episode will focus a little bit on our venue for the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards, but I won't say any more than that. Just have to listen next month. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Goodbye for now.